صباح الخير. كيف النشاط؟ It's a big week for Lebanon, and today we're starting with partnerships. Partnerships, as Maria mentioned, is at the heart of entrepreneurship support. It's at the heart of innovation. If we look around the world, where innovation thrives, it's because of partnership. It's because of businesses that are connected. It's because of associations of businesses and clusters that are connecting together. It's because private-public partnerships are happening. And above all, it's about academia linking up and building the heart of innovation and entrepreneurship. Today, we are very proud to have with us esteemed guests from all around the world joining us to talk about this partnership. So, we will examine how collaboration between key institutions can enhance the impact of entrepreneurship. Panelists will discuss with us how joint initiative can foster innovation, provide funding, strengthen capacity building for startups and SMEs, and we will highlight successful multi-stakeholder partnership, showcasing best practices in ecosystem development, knowledge transfer, and long-term sustainability. As we all know, we know that saying that says it takes a village to raise a child, it takes an ecosystem to build successful entrepreneurs. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to be introducing our panelists one by one quickly so that you know who do we have with us. I'm going to start with Dr. Joseph Al-Assad. Dr. Joseph Al-Assad is, one second. Okay. Dr. Joseph Al-Assad have earned his PhD in electrical engineering and joined USAC in 2008, where he held various administrative positions. In 2019, he was appointed Dean of the School of Engineering at USAC and formed after the merger of the Faculty of Engineering and the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences. Following the publication of several articles and 2 books, he was promoted to the rank of professor in 2020. From 2010 to 2025, Dr. Assad served as an advisor to multiple national and international organizations, including the Ministry of Energy and Water, LCEC, KfW, UNESCO, and many more. In 2025, he assumed also the position of the President Director General of the Lebanese Center for Energy Conservation. Ahla wa sahla, Dr. Assad. It's great to have you with us. We're going to then introduce Ms. Amal Obeid. Amal is currently the acting chief of Adolescent and Youth Program at UNICEF in Lebanon, and she is working with the UNICEF Gulf. She has worked with the UNICEF Gulf office in the UAE as partnership and fundraising specialist, and she is currently also, she occupied previously the deputy team leader for the UNICEF Global Forum for Children and Youth at the Office of the Executive Director. She holds a master's degree in leadership and strategies from the Instituto de Empresa and in Madrid, and a bachelor in psychology from the Lebanese American University of Beirut. Ahla wa sahla, Amal. Thank you for being with us. Jacob Waslender, thank you for joining us. He's the Middle East and North Africa envoy for water, energy, and food from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. His office is in Amman, Jordan, and works with all the embassies in the region to foster and lead this kind of transformation. He combines strategy vision with a can-do attitude toward operational challenges. His strong points include problem solving, team building, out-of-the-box thinking, developing policy solutions, and mobilizing support for them. He's held different positions in the past with many world institutions like the EU, the UN, the World Bank, and private sector development, financial sector reforms, and sustainability and climate change. Welcome, Jacob. We move to Anne. Anne Isambert is the Deputy Director of AFD in Lebanon. She oversees activities in the country, and she's a focal point on agriculture. Anne has more than 15 years in development sector with different NGOs, the UN agencies, and 10 years with AFD across various countries, and currently oversees, as I mentioned, the agriculture economic sector. Bienvenue, Anne. Thank you for joining. We move to Alex, who is the project director at Fairtrade Lebanon. He leads initiatives that support small farmers, cooperatives, and MSMEs across the agriculture and agro-processing sector. He's also the current president of the Lebanese Social Enterprise Association, where he's leading and advocating for social economic ecosystems in Lebanon. He's deeply committed to social justice and work towards building a more equitable and resilient society. And last but not least, we have with us Irene Salvoni, and she has a dynamic career spanning in the private sector, civil society, and the European Commission. Her work brings a multitude and multidisciplinary perspective to innovation and entrepreneurship. In the private sector, she gained hands-on experience driving business growth and supporting SMEs, while at the European Commission, she contributes to key programs in DG GROW and the MENA region, promoting entrepreneurship and private sector development and enhancing cross-collaboration and sustainable economic transformation. Thank you again for joining us. So as you can see, we have guests that have been across multi-continents, exposed to multi-things, and they will share with us their experience on how collaboration helps ensure that our ecosystem can grow and improve. I'm going to start with you, Amal. So UNICEF focuses on youth and adolescent development. We've been partners with you through the GIL program for 4 years. We've seen it starting, growing, and expanding. In what way can public and private institutions collaborate to provide young entrepreneurs with the necessary tools and resources to succeed?
Thank you, Ramy. It's so nice to be with you here today. I'm going to talk about, when we talk about young people, we are talking about basically students. From one side, students in public schools or private schools or universities. And from another side, something we've seen lately after the economic crisis and after the education crisis is the students who are dropping out of school. So all of these, there is a big role to play for education, whether private or public. And considering the economic crisis, we've seen how much the public sector has suffered in the past 3 to 4 years, if not 5. So there is a big role for all of us here and all the policy at policy level, at government level, at private sector level, to do also. One thing that needs to change and to improve, even to empower young people to become entrepreneurs or young students, is mainly the TVET sector. So that is something that needs to be improved. And there is a TVET strategy that is going to be launched soon. That TVET strategy includes, that TVET strategy will be launched by the Ministry of Education. And it has also, it has been developed by public and private and agencies. So at least we have the public partnership, public-private partnership in place when it comes to how to reform the TVET sector. So that TVET strategy also includes entrepreneurship. So how are we going to build new entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs? From the young people who are in the public sector, who have not received any kind of quality education in the past 4 years, who are at risk of dropping out, whereas the ones who are in private sectors are also getting an amazing degree, but at the same time, when they leave, they don't find any jobs, or they're not ready to become entrepreneurs. So during the development of the TVET strategy, we met with a lot of representatives from the private sectors. And they were always looking for young people, young students and young graduates with a specific set of skills. However, these set of skills were not available among the young people. So all the private companies had to take in students, put a lot of money to build their capacity for them to be ready to become the future employees or the future entrepreneurs. So one thing that we did in the GIL program, so we have a program that takes young people from, at very basic level, and it graduates them onto the innovation program. In the innovation program, this is what we did. We brought private sectors. We worked with Berytech as well. They are one of the biggest partners. We worked with our donors, such as the Netherlands Embassy and other Lebanese private sector also companies. And we put together that program that creates new entrepreneurs. Our aim is not to only support the students from the private schools. We also look at young people who are out of school, who are in public schools and public universities, and help them to get these set of skills that they don't get in the public setting. Nevertheless, there is a big role to play with the private sector. So one thing that we did also with public schools is we brought in the private sector. So these students, they're doing their practices in the TVET sector in the private companies. So they are learning hands-on experience work-based learning within the private sector. That will improve their chances of getting employed. And at the same time, that will give them an idea on what is it to be an entrepreneur, what do they need to do, and what the set of skills they need to have to become the future entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Amal. So if I am to take on some of the highlights of your conversation, we've talked about youth, opportunities, private sector engagement, job opportunity, entrepreneurship mindset. All of this is crucially needed for the future of Lebanon. All of this is needed if we're scaling SMEs, scaling startups as well. We want the workforce to stay here, to be ready and to scale. So thank you for putting all this effort. Now, if we are to move to Jacob, the Netherlands have been a key player in the Middle East and North Africa, especially in sectors like agriculture, water, and energy. How can international cooperation support entrepreneurship in sectors crucial to sustainable development, like energy and water and agriculture? And what do you think is a key to creating long-term partnerships that can effectively drive entrepreneurial innovation, particularly in the context of sustainability?
Thank you, Ramy. And great to be back in Beirut. Since 23, I hadn't been here because of the tragic situation. And it's so good to be here and feel this entrepreneurship also at the PowerX event. I think it's so impressive. And Lebanon is, in that sense, very special in the Arab world. That entrepreneurship, the idea of really creating value added by taking opportunities is so prominent here. And I felt it yesterday and today here at PowerX. So great to be here. For me, there are three messages I want to drive home. First is that across the globe, we are facing this transition, the transition to a sustainable social economic development. And in each country, the setting is different. But whether you're in the EU or in my home country, the Netherlands, or here in the Arab world or in Lebanon, everybody has to work on this because our climate is changing and it's impacting us. And so that is the first element where we as international partners should reach out and help in making this transition. And it's not easy. Transition means change. Change also creates counter-reactions. So it's a phase of instability. It's a phase where government policies are changing, rules and regulations are changing, and that's not what you want as an entrepreneur. But you have to deal with it. And that's where we as international partners can help to steer the transition, to help in cushioning the effects. If you as an investor want to invest in new technologies and you become a so-called first mover, it costs you a lot of money. And in covering the upfront costs, in helping to give you the technical expertise you need to adapt and to adjust, those are elements where we can help to strengthen market forces, to strengthen competition, and to make sure that businesses are changing to a sustainable business model. And that's also what's happening here in Lebanon. The second point is that we also need to make sure that everybody is participating in this change. So it's not only those who have the means or who have access to certain production opportunities, but also those who are underprivileged, that also they become part of this change. And that's also where we want to play a role, to make sure that everybody is included and that we move to a societal dynamic which is profitable for everybody. And the third element where I think we can really help in moving forward is in seeing how also in the collaboration between countries and in the region, we can help to make this outreach and create platforms where you can learn from each other through peer review, through understanding better what data mean, how data should be interpreted, and what those data tell you about the future scenarios for the upcoming 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So those are the three elements where I think we as an international partner can help out also here in Lebanon.
Amazing. Thank you, Jacob. A few words as well, if I am to take on some of the things that resonated clearly. Change is happening, collaboration is key, integration of people and ensuring that it's something that is incorporating everybody, people at higher level of society, lower level of society, inclusiveness is key, sustainability in all its aspects, economic, social, and environmental are taking place, and learning is happening across both sides. You know, in science, we talk about inoculation, we talk about contamination, and I think it has been a great learning with some of the collaboration we've had with donors, especially in some of our programs at Berytech, where cross-learning between Dutch institutions, regional partners here, where there was always an open door of learning on both sides. And I think that's part of the richness of being part of a partnership and learning from each other, improving on each other's knowledge, and understanding each other's positioning. So thank you very much for sharing this insight. I'm going to move to Alex to focus more on the local context, because Alex is, as we mentioned, is leading now on the Lebanese social enterprise network, and he's also been heavily involved in fair trade, in supporting different people. So Alex, now that you are focused on social entrepreneurship and fair trade practices, how do multiple stakeholder partnerships help scale impact in these sectors? Can you share an insight into how such partnerships help in addressing social and environmental challenges? And how do you ensure that partnership with businesses and institutions align with your core values of social responsibility and sustainability?
Okay. Excuse me, I lost my voice yesterday, right before the panel. So thank you for the invitation. And so I have this double hat, Fair Trade Lebanon and Lebanese Social Enterprise Association. And we truly believe that we are interconnected. So when we say fairness, we definitely talk about a social impact, social environmental impact. And why is partnership important to have an impact? So we just have to realize, to acknowledge and to remember that today we're living in a context where three major incidents happened since 2020. So we have a public sector which is weakened, we have the private sector which is fragile, and we have the international aid which is decreasing. So today there is a need to strengthen and to push for more partnerships. So the only way to build a new economy, especially for small businesses, we have to do that through partnerships. And when we talk about partnerships, it's an honest discussion between the relevant sectors, stakeholders. So we're talking about academia, donors, the private sector, the public sector, and NGOs. And most importantly, local communities. So how we do it, when we want to design projects, and even when we want to have a conversation, either with enterprises or cooperatives or the donors, we try to align on the same mission. So we do believe that our work needs to matter. We want to give and we want to get back. And this is the approach that we are pushing to be able to really have an impact on other communities and in society. And one example of how things can be done, especially if you want to be able to solve problems that matters, small problems. One example is let's try to link local producers, for example, with humanitarian procurement. So we're trying to solve a very specific problem with a very specific approach. We're trying to give more for the producers, opportunities for these people, for these enterprises, talking about producers, farmers, or even small enterprises, and linking them to public procurement, for example, or humanitarian procurement. I would also want to to focus on one very important thing is that we talk a lot about reforms in this country. And if we want really to have reforms that matters and that will make the life of people improved, let's say, we need to work on the ecosystem. So at LSE, this is exactly what we're doing. It's a gathering, it's a coalition of NGOs with the economic activities of small entrepreneurs. We're trying to really have an impact on the structure of this country, not only focusing on projects. So what we want things to happen is that once the project ends, the impact will sustain. And we cannot do this without partnership, without involving civil society, the private sector, and the government.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. So, highlighted few points: impact, partnership, social, integration of the farmer, the farming community, the social entrepreneurs, and working heavily on needed reforms to get the sector more alive, more collaborative, and ensuring that there is that interaction between all stakeholders to make a difference. I know, Anne, you've been working heavily with the agriculture sector. You've seen things changing over the period where you were here, but you've been enabling through AFD a lot of those communities that we work with. So the French Development Agency has supported various initiatives in Lebanon. How does AFD collaborate with local and international partners to drive entrepreneurship and business support in the Lebanese market? And is microfinancing one of the tools, for example, that you have used to capacitate the communities that need this the most to be able to open up to better markets, better things, and hopefully collaborate with the ecosystem as a whole?
Thank you very much, Ramy. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here at PowerX, and thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, indeed, so AFD, just a few words, is we fund projects all over the world, and we indeed fund projects in the agricultural sector and SMEs. Through our support to entrepreneurship and SMEs is through two avenues. There is one which has already been mentioned by UNICEF, Jacob, about TVET. It's really an opportunity to target the most vulnerable people and then creating a new generation of entrepreneurs, if possible, in accompanying the green transition in the sectors that are useful for the recovery of the Lebanese economy. And the second avenue is direct support to entrepreneurs. And I will focus on one of our flagship projects, also because it is implemented in part with Berytech, which is organizing this event. And so it was a project led by different partners, including CARE, but also local organizations such as LOST and GNFF in the ground. And the idea was to provide support after the beginning of the economic crisis to farmers to help them maintaining their production, as well as to SMEs. So they both received technical training, but also financial literacy, business development trainings, and they also received in-kind equipment. So this was part of grants at the beginning of the project, because it was a twofold approach. The idea was to respond to urgent needs, and as we are a development agency, the idea was also to build the capacities of this population towards a more sustainable development. And here comes the microfinance. So we fund the Al-Majmoura, which is one of the microfinance institutions in Lebanon. We helped them design a product, a financial product that is suitable for the agricultural sector. It was only part of their portfolio, the agricultural sector. And up to date, Al-Majmoura has been able to lend to farmers for an amount of about more than €1 million, which with 1,200 loans. with an amount ranging from $500 to $15,000. And we decided also to extend this, the beneficiaries to SMEs, because quite maybe unexpectedly, also during the war, there was a high demand from both farmers and SMEs on microfinance. So we see it as very key in the sector also, this access to finance, and also the context we know in Lebanon, and also the global context where you have like massive budget cuts in terms of international aid. And there's also another initiative in terms of the access to finance, which is piloted by our partner CARE, which is called the Village Saving Loan Association. So here it's we're talking about smaller amounts, and it's basically community of 15, 25 people who gather and who save money, and then who are able to get some loans, like smaller ones. But we think it's also interesting for this small entrepreneur who can't access yet microfinance, but who can build their capacities and maybe access to loans afterwards.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And indeed, when I look at the Basatine program and how all the partners are integrating, is definitely one of those programs where partnership plays a big role, because each one has its strengths, and the program design, the type of activities that are happening are all interlinked in making a huge difference. When buyers, SMEs buy from farmers, when the microfinance can leverage quality and improvement, it's all making a lot of business sense, community sense, impact on the overall level. You've highlighted the importance of finance, and you're totally right. So for the audience that we have, one of our biggest pain points to deal with in the coming year or two is to accelerate access to finance in Lebanon at all levels, so from microfinance to innovative finance, which is community finance, like you've highlighted, to SME finance, debt, capital, all of it. Lebanon is in higher need, and if we're looking at partnerships and collaboration, I think we need to push, us all as partners, to push for a faster reform, an improved reform, and access to capital for all our businesses that are super talented, have high potential, but need that injection to get them moving. So thank you for this. I'll move to Irene. You have been working with the European Commission. You're running programs along the region with DG Grow, focusing on scaling and growing. I would say over my last 10 years with Berytech, many of the projects that were funded through the EU for regional programs have been some of my highlights during those 10 years, because the richness that happens through exchange between partners across the region, the knowledge, the funding that injects sparks into financing projects, ideas that could scale, experiment with, has always been something that is very enticing for BSOs to support company structures and so on. So if we are to go back to the European Commission and its involvement into the numerous initiatives across the MENA region, how do you approach partnerships that aim to improve entrepreneurship, and what do you consider the key to building effective partnerships in the region? How can international and regional institutions better align their efforts to ensure a more cohesive and effective entrepreneurship ecosystem in the MENA region?
Thank you very much, Ramy, and thanks everyone. It's important for me to address this question here in Lebanon because it's a country known for its entrepreneurial mindset. And yesterday I was having different meetings all day long, and I think every stakeholder I met was mentioning about the mindset Lebanese people have in terms of entrepreneurship, which is something I think really surprising and unique. I work exactly as he was mentioning for the European Commission and precisely in DG MENA, where we are indeed committing in fostering an inclusive and sustainable growth in the MENA region. And the core pillar of this I would say, engagement is really the support to innovation and entrepreneurship. And as we were mentioning yesterday, these two goes really hands to hands. And maybe to explain a bit the approach we are having, I would like to mention two of the projects we are currently having, just to show you a bit what we are doing concretely. One of these projects that you can find, by the way, the booth over there, is the Euromed Cluster Forward, which is a bit our regional flagship project to really boost the innovation capacity here in the region. We support these way clusters, and by the way, you can find a lot of representatives from the clusters from the region here in the conference, so feel free to reach out to know more. And we support SMEs. The idea is really to enhance competitiveness by creating cross-border links between SMEs, clusters, but as well value chain. Another project I would like to mention is From Innovation to Creation. And there we really try to bridge the gap between the ideas and then the business creation. So in this way, we support entrepreneurs via access to finance, capacity building, incubation, and so on. So as you can see, it's not just about funding and technical assistance, but it's a lot about creating local partnership, and I think this word is coming out a lot today, but also local ownership by having impact and sustainable impact. And I think this is really key.
Great. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, you know, between the Euromed Cluster Forward, we've seen a lot of interaction between clusters. I also met some of the cluster members yesterday that were coming from all over, and they have valued a lot all the interaction that I'm having, the learning that they're having, and same thing with the program, which is From Innovation to Creation, where Berytech has also been part of in supporting BISOs, working and learning new sectors and collaborating. I believe, as you mentioned, sustainability and long-term partnerships are key. And such programs that are cross-border are amazing opportunities for people to look beyond their borders, to look at best practices that are out there, to look at collaborative effort. And it leads to friendship, but also to, you know, somebody to call and ask, how are you doing it there? Because, you know, in every country there are policy makers, there is a need to push a certain way of doing things, there's a need to learn how to, you know, connect the private sector together, or even spark more entrepreneurship mindset in some spaces and so on. So thank you for joining, and thank you for bringing this to our panel today. Dr. Joseph, I left you last in this round because I believe that academia and universities are one of the most, you know, impactful sparks of change in every community. And universities has a major role in fostering collaboration because people, you know, in university, students work together, they get engaged with the private sector, they get engaged in politics sometimes. So it's the heart of, you know, building the future of each country. So if we look at the academic perspective, so from an academic perspective, what role do universities and educational institutions play in supporting entrepreneurship, and how can they collaborate with businesses, NGOs, to enhance the entrepreneurship ecosystem? And can you share some examples of successful collaboration between your institution, which is UZEC, and the private sector or other organizations that have resulted in meaningful entrepreneurship impact?
Okay, let me begin by thanking you, Ramy, for two different reasons. First of all, to allow me to address such a wonderful crowd. But second, to make one of my dreams come true, having that entrance with the dry ice and the lighting, it was really wonderful. So thank you for that also. Effectively, as you mentioned, I totally agree with you that universities are at the heart of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The first natural role for universities and educational institutions would be, I think, to create this culture of entrepreneurship. Yes, we always say it's within our DNA as Lebanese that we are entrepreneur. However, being entrepreneur is not only following the first idea you have in your mind, and saying that's your entrepreneurship idea. So it's about understanding the science behind entrepreneurship, and I think there's a huge role that universities are playing and should be playing on that level. The second role, I think, is creating that platform of partnership where, as USAC, we decided that that should be our flagship as a university, not only creating bridges with the private sector, but bringing the industry to the university. And on that level, I will leave the examples till the end, if you allow. On that level, bringing the industry to the university would mean that the industry should have a say within the academic curriculums. Not only theoretically should have a say, but practically should have a say, should have a skin in the game within the curriculum also, and there should be a project partnership with the industry on that level. The third level and the third major role that the university should be playing on that level also, I imagine, would be the access to resources. As universities, we have a lot of unexploited resources. From one side, human resources and experts, but from the other side, for example, I would give a small example from my own university and my own school on that level. We have CNC machines that costed like $500,000 that were used 1 or 2 times per semester in one course, in one of the programs, in one of the schools of the university. So today, those 2 CNC machines are collaborating with the private sector. We already recruited people to operate those machines, and they are generating income for the university and for the student and for the labs. I think the final role if I have to choose one for universities, would be to create those forums of discussions, to be really those platforms where we can discuss as knowledge generators, as private sector, because the main need should come from the private sector.
Correct.
Entrepreneurship for the sake of entrepreneurship, I think we cannot afford that anymore in Lebanon. We have enough problems to solve. Let's focus on entrepreneurship in order to solve those problems. Now, in terms of examples of collaboration, here I would love to mention a couple of examples. Essentially, we are collaborating, for example, with a mushroom farm to manufacture a machine for them in order to mix the compost and distribute the compost into trays without having anyone interfering. That machine is being designed, it's being implemented within our team. But I think the most impactful example would be the establishment of the Skills Development Center at USAC. The main role of the Skills Development Center is non-traditional education. So we're discussing with the private sector, we're doing needs assessment with them, we're designing curriculum and designing training and delivering those training in collaboration with third-party examination.
Amazing. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Asad. If I am to, again, sum up some of those, amazing inputs that you've highlighted, I like the word skin in the game. So industry needs to have skin in the game with universities, and universities need to be working hand in hand with industry to make transfer, and you've highlighted a lot of this in the examples. Entrepreneurship for the sake of entrepreneurship, you're right. Entrepreneurship should be grounded with the reality. The entrepreneurs are there to solve real problem, and it's not a way of life, it's a way to really solve problem, and this is where impact happens. You've highlighted, you've highlighted as well the importance of, using the resources, all types of resources, facility, people, knowledge, etc., that are there to serve a bigger purpose, a purpose for a better economy, a cohesive economy, and a competitive economy for Lebanon and beyond. And I will finish with an important point that is very dear to my heart, which is using academic institution or working with academic institution as a platform of knowledge exchange, a forum for pushing things forward for a better community. And I think this is crucial because academia plays, or universities plays, a major role in terms of being neutral, of being science-based, of being research-based, and building on things that people should push forward. And we all know from policymakers that science-based policymaking is what we need. And I think it's time for Lebanon to be able to really embrace this and move forward this. So thank you for your input. We have one question for all of you that I want to ask. And I was just informed by our production team that we have a total of exactly 9 minutes before we close the session. So we're going to work with one question. I'll get from each one of you about a minute before we do a wrap-up of the panel. So as we move forward, what are the top 3 elements that institutions and governments should prioritize to build stronger, a more sustainable partnership in the entrepreneurship space? What advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs looking to tap into these ecosystems? So what are the top 3 elements that institutions and governments should prioritize to build stronger and more sustainable partnerships? And what advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs, the ones that are starting and growing, to tap into these ecosystems? Who wants to start? Okay, Anne. We start with Anne.
Yes, to me, and having discussed this also with startups and entrepreneurs, I think there are 3 things. Maybe one is having a conducive legal environment, because at the moment it's not easy for organizations to register. It's not very also interesting for entrepreneurs to be registered in Lebanon. So I think this is something Lebanon could work on. The second one is unsurprisingly funding. And I think funding at the beginning, but also funding to scale up the activities and allow like small entrepreneurs to be SMEs, and then like bigger enterprises. And the third one, I think, is the networking, and I think Berytech knows that well. Also, I think in Lebanon, where you have a lot of different communities, it's important to have a network that goes beyond that and that put all the different partners all together.
Great. Who else? Amal, you wanted to say something?
Before the crisis, the central bank had allocated a big chunk amount of money to finance entrepreneurs and finance new businesses and all of that. So this is not available anymore. However, I think coordination is a big need in that point, because I've seen in this event that by itself, we've seen so many organizations and entities are supporting access to finance and access to businesses and SMEs and all of that. So I think that space needs to be coordinated. Maybe Berytech can do that job, because you are the lead in this ecosystem. I think market-relevant training is very important, and market-based training with the private sector. You mentioned that as well. These are very important to actually start supporting the young people or the students in school or universities or out of school even, with how to open their business. We missed something very important, which are the soft skills, the employability skills. So we've seen a lot of people who have found a job, however, they're not able to sustain that job, and for a number of reasons. So employability skills are very important, and we're all practicing soft skills now at the moment while we're talking. So this is something that is very important for young people to have, even for entrepreneurship. So if they don't have the right set of soft skills or life skills, they will not be able to sustain. One more thing, definitely, access to finance is very important. The curriculum that will be designed are very important, whether for employment or for entrepreneurship, social and entrepreneurial mindset. Policy level is 100%, because we're missing that for quite some time. One more thing I want to mention as well. We've seen the impact of the past 4 years, what they've done on young people and on students, on parents as well. So I think also support and coaching, mentoring is highly needed, because we're always questioning ourselves, and the students are always questioning themselves, and there's always this fear or anxiety somewhere. So in order to succeed, mentoring is very important.
Correct.
Over.
Thank you very much. Alex?
So 3 points for institutions and the government. So as we said, they have to be involved so we can really impact the ecosystem and make a structural change. So first of all, policy support for social entrepreneurs. So we acknowledge as LSE that maybe the priority today is not to pass the draft law or to improve it. And we should, first of all, organize ourselves, get credibility, and to be recognized by the whole organizations and stakeholders as the reliable reference in this sector. But it's very important not to forget that if we want to encourage people to register, people to recruit, we need really a legal framework to be able to work within. And one of the important points in the policy that needs to be pushed is incentives for entrepreneurs. Incentives for entrepreneurs to do the transition from conventional to social. If I'm going to do it, okay, I have this I'm sensitive to a social case, but at the end of the day, I want to make money. And if I cannot make a profit or make money, I might lose my mission. So first of all, policy support. The second one is building the capacities of these local entrepreneurs. And we talked about access to finance and so on. Two major points are access to technology. We should not miss the train. So if we know that we struggle with the infrastructure in Lebanon, electricity and so on, internet, but we should not miss the train. We should be able to innovate and to use technology. The second one is access to markets. We sell, we produce and we sell our goods or services. If the enabling environment is not supporting us to access the local market or the international market, we will definitely fail. The third point is really to promote collaboration and partnership between the public and the private sector. The public sector alone cannot do all the job, the NGOs alone cannot do the job, and the private sector as well. Now maybe 2 words for entrepreneurs. First of all, build your network. It's very important. Once someone told me that go work in the company that you want to create. Build your tribe, build your network. 1. 2 is focus on the value, not only on the profit. Differentiate yourself. So if you want really to shift from conventional to things that matters, we need to create this value, the story behind what we do. And finally, be flexible. We're living in a context really fragile and not stable. And definitely we will face, we might not always win. It doesn't mean that we cannot change how we do things to be able to achieve our goal.
Thank you, Alex. Anybody else? Karine? Not working? We'll give you Alex mic.
Now? Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So about these priorities, I would say just in a nutshell, to focus also on long-term over short-term. I see too often entrepreneurship tied to fragmented initiative and short funding cycles, which do not make the journey sustainable. I do believe as well it's crucial to focus on the overall ecosystem, as someone else was mentioning already, on infrastructure, reforms, education as well. So this means not just supporting startups themselves, but the entire value chain around startups, going from incubator, accelerator, innovation hub, research institutes, just to name a few. Then I think it's crucial to move towards a model of inclusiveness led locally, and I think this self-explains itself, and as well moving toward a regional connectivity approach. Entrepreneurship does not stop at borders, so I think it's crucial, this cooperation. And to just complement on what Alex was saying, just a couple of words to entrepreneurs. I very much agree with what he was saying, to focus on value and not just funding, because if you focus on value, on real solutions to problems, the fundings will come themselves. But I would add also stay connected to your ecosystem. As Ramy was saying at the beginning, the ecosystem built entrepreneurship, and I very much believe that your success is tied to the ecosystem and to the strength of the ecosystem you belong to. So I think really these two things are very much connected.
Thank you very much. Dr. Asad?
I don't have 3 anymore. I lost 1 on the way.
It's okay, 2, because we need to close.
No,
There's pressure.
Effectively, I think from the ecosystem side, a very important comment is to optimize the resources. So if someone is doing something, let's focus on doing something else to complete the value chain. That's the first one. And the second one is, I think, skills development. Knowledge education is a little bit outdated nowadays. We need to focus more on skills. And the very first one for entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs, because we're seeing it, and I personally experienced it with my students last month. We're seeing a very high, as you mentioned, Amal, we're seeing a high mental fragility. So if the first idea doesn't work,
They collapse.
they thought it's a total collapse, or the first approach even to their idea doesn't work, it's collapse. So no, it's about perseverance. It's about trying and trying again. That's it.
100%.
Thank you.
Jacob, any last words? Or
Yeah, I keep it to one point.
Perfect.
Given the time. But no, because I think a lot of wisdom has already been shared. So I fully concur with what my fellow panelists are saying. Yeah, my main message is this country has seen so much fragility and may not be out of the woods yet. But I think the dynamics you've shown, for example, when the electricity here in the 21, 23 was not working as it should, and how with private initiatives you were able to back up as good as you could. I think that's impressive in showing the dynamics of the private sector. And I think we need that more. We need entrepreneurs who are well informed, so make sure you have your data right, and make sure you have your dot on the horizon on what you want to achieve. But also make sure that you do it step by step. You can't go there at once. And you may see also countervailing actions. So be flexible there. But I think you can really make it. And if you can get the advice you need to set up your company, to design your new business model, I think then you can really make an important stretch. Of course, the banking sector is crucial, and you're still having to cover quite a way here in Lebanon in getting that functioning completely well. And there are other things which are not close to being perfect, but I think there are here basic conditions which make that you can make this progress. And I think you really should. I think this transition is ongoing, and this is what you should be making use of. Wherever we can help as international partners, we certainly will. And I think you can surely make it in building a better future here. So thank you.
Amazing. I will not summarize all the inputs. There are many. I will have them on a LinkedIn post, so you can follow that on my page and Berytech's page. And I want to remind people, partnership, true partnership. You know, meaningful partnership is very important. I hope next year's event will be double this size with more partners joining in for a stronger and more collaborative entrepreneurship space, putting Lebanon back on the map. I want to ask the production to give me 10 seconds to take a selfie with my panelists, and then you run the music. Okay? Thank you very much.